الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره. Islam is not a religion. That is the mistake or the crime that was committed by those who hijacked the deen of Islam. Islam is a deen, and to translate the word deen to the word religion does a grave injustice to the word deen as the way or the choice of Islam or the lifestyle called Islam is called in the Quran. What Islam really is a choice. Islam is a choice. It's a voluntary choice. It's a choice of lifestyle which is composed of a series or a system of choices that are coordinated and coherent. So the choice or the life choice of Islam is in reality a socio-political economic choice, and it goes up to the social level and it comes down to the individual level, and at all these levels Islam is the choice that is made. Another word for Islam is to call it harmonious compliance with nature. So human beings have the option to be in harmonious compliance with nature, or they have the option, they have the free choice to reject harmonious compliance with nature. And so Islam is another word for compliance, harmonious compliance, and the freedom to choose such harmonious compliance with nature. To say that Islam is a religion is committing an injustice and a crime to the sacred and noble idea of the deen of Allah. The deen of Allah is not split into different religions, and you cannot claim that the deen of Allah is either Christianity or the religion of God is Islam or the religion of God is Judaism. That would be a complete fallacy. There is one religion, one deen, one sanctioned approach or way of complying with nature, which is the divinely sanctioned choice. And that has appeared at various times in history under different leaders, under different guides. Very early on, these guides were offered direct divine communication as they guided their people. But as time went by, the need for this direct intervention and this direct words of revelation became that need fell away, because then the book was preserved. The book we call the Quran had become preserved and became a timeless testament which leaders or these guides could then simply apply at any point in history. And so in our times, the need for guidance, the need for leading humanity to the divine system of compliance is still there, but there is no need for wahi or for divine revelation, any new divine revelation. That revelation is with us in the form of the Quran, also in the form of previous books such as the Bible, the New Testament, or the Old Testament, subject to that these older testaments must be seen or looked at through the prism or through the perspective of the Quran, which serves as the means of correcting or means of corroboration of these other books. Now, when you see Islam, and the word is mentioned in the Holy Quran at various places as harmonious compliance to the will of God or to nature, and you understand Islam as not reduced to the spiritual dimension or to the dimension of politics, but encompassing all the spheres of human experience, including political, social, economic, health, etc., etc. Then the concept of priesthood, you can understand how the concept of priesthood becomes a nonsense concept in the context of that understanding. You see, the concept of a priest, of somebody who is a religious elitist or a religious gatekeeper, somebody who decides who is orthodox and who is non-orthodox, because that is what priests do. The classic idea of a priest is as a gatekeeper, to be a policeman of doctrine, to ensure that the follower or the adherent complies with the doctrine, and the priest becomes an elitist club or class who are the determinants and the gatekeepers of religious doctrine. And if religious doctrine is the one thing, is the only way in which you define Islam, then we would require priests. But because Islam spans the economic, the social, the political realms, and all other experiences that human beings could be involved in, the idea of a priest becomes completely nonsensical and a concept that is irrelevant. However, in our times, sadly, when we have become prone to the thinking of the West and to the thinking of other religions, many important figures central to the Islamic tradition have done has gotten involved in adjusting Islam to conform to the modern idea of a religion, and so the idea of priests are then incorporated, and an idea that is non-existent in the Quran. In fact, the word priests is never ever related in a positive way in the Holy Quran. Correct me if you find a positive mention of a priest. Perhaps maybe on one place there might be, but most of the passages that speak about priests are actually not very positive. Let me show you one or two of these passages. Look at this verse here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله. I'll just read the first section where it says, they take their priests and their ascetics to be their lords in derogation of Allah. So can you see that that is a negative? There's a negative connotation applied to that. Look at this one. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن كثيرا من الأحبار ورهبان لا يأكلوا أموال الناس بالباطل. That is a very negative statement. O you who believe, there are indeed many amongst the priests and ascetics who in falsehood devour the substance of men and hinder them from the way of Allah. So what we see here is that where the concept of the ahbar include the rabbis, and all priests, and the ruhban, they include the holy men, the ascetics, those who are dedicated to religion alone or to spirituality. So the concept is not favorably mentioned in the holy book, and so we cannot accept that concept. And today people have invented a term called the ulama, and in Muslim circles, Muslim community circles, they use the term ulama. And when you see how they use the word, then what they are basically doing is they are using the word ulama to refer to Muslim priests. And although the word alim has got nothing to do with a priest, in the Quran, in fact, the word alim is mentioned. The word ulama is also mentioned, but it has no relation to the way that it is being used in society right now. I mean, in society now, right now, the, the term ulama has been invented, or has been hijacked from the Holy Quran to refer to a generation of men, to a class of men who hold a special status amongst the Muslim community, that status of policing doctrine, of policing religious practice, which is an alien concept. There is no such a thing as policing doctrine in Islam. We don't need to be policed in terms of our religious doctrine. Our doctrine is transparent. It's in the Quran. It consists, there's 6,200 verses which spell out the doctrine of a Muslim. There's no hidden doctrines or secret doctrines that need to be developed and need to be preserved by a special class of holy men who've usurped the term alim or ulama. And you know, if you look at the word alim in the Quran also, it is disgusting how this term is abused. Let me show you some examples of how the word alim is used. Look at this verse here. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ وَالدَّوَّابِ, and so amongst men and crawling creatures and cattle are they of various colors. And then إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ, those who truly fear Allah amongst His servants who have knowledge. And so the word ulama here, the only case that I can find in the Holy Quran where the word ulama is used in that way, is referred to here, is in fact referred to more of a scientific understanding, because the verse starts by saying, and so amongst men and crawling creatures and cattle are they of various colors. Those truly fear Allah amongst His servants who have knowledge. For Allah is exalted in might, oft forgiving. So it states here that those who study nature, those who understand nature, those who have insight in the natural phenomena of the world, they who develop understanding, they are the ones who will develop a fear of Allah. So nothing to do with a mufti and a nothing to do with the idea of a mufti and with the council of ulama and with majlisul ulama and all these false inventions that were created to establish an elite of priests, because that's what they really are. They are not ulama, because they don't even have minimum qualifications. None of the so-called members of the MJC and of all these other priesthood bodies have any proper skills in research, in language, in understanding, in scholarship. They have no way of competing with other scholars in the world. Granted, there might be one or two exceptions, but by and large, these are men who are merely earning a living out of being a shepherd, out of being a little shepherd of a flock, in imitating the Christian practice of shepherds and flocks, and inserting themselves as little priests amongst the community. But now the question you will probably have thought about is, but if there's no such a concept as an alim or as a priest, then how do we then keep the community, guide the community? And I want to bring you to the concept that really exists in the Holy Quran, and that is the concept of leadership, of imamat. Now that is a concept that you can accept and that you can depend on, that is spelled out in the Quran, that is constantly harped on by the Almighty, and that is properly set out, including the qualities of an imam. And we can look at that concept, not the concept of the so-called alim or the priest, but rather of the concept of the imam, or the proper leader of the Muslim community. Let me take you through that concept then. Let me show you 3 verses that spell out clearly the idea of the Imam. And the word Imam is used also, not unlike the word Alim, which is never really used to indicate a special breed or a special category of mu'min. But here a special category of mu'min is indeed articulated where it says وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. Now, from the believers, from, in this case, the Bani Israel, from the believers, from those who affirm, from those who embrace and adopt the Islamic choice, or the choice of harmonious compliance, who affirm the Creator, who affirm the book, who affirm truth. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ, from those who affirm, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً, we created leaders. We created leaders. So out of every wholesome, beautiful community that emerges, that is in compliance, that loves Allah, that wants to serve Allah, that is committed to Allah and to truth and to righteousness and to nature and to compliance with what is beautiful. In every such community, we made leaders, yahduna bi amrina, who guides with our command. Lamma sabaru wa kanu bi ayatina yuqinun. So long as they persevered with patience and have faith in our signs. Now let's look at the other qualities. Here's another verse that spells out very, very clearly the role and the duty of that special breed of men and women who are called the leaders. They, in this verse it says, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةٌ يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا. We made them leaders who guided by our command, and we send them inspiration to do good deeds. So in their actions they do good deeds, to institute adherence. So they establish systems of adherence, they establish organizations, they establish governance, they establish protocols and institutes. And so this is the role of a leader, to build a government, to build an institute, to build an organization, to organize the community, to institute adherence. That is what we mean by institute. That is what the Quran says, to institute adherence. Iqam as-salat. Now here, if you reduce the word again, salat, to its minimalist meaning, which people have robbed the Quran of its meaning by reducing the meaning of salah to only one thing, which is a act of worship, which is one aspect of general adherence. You see, adherence consists of worship and of many other things. The word salat existed long before Islam. It means adherence. It is a word that existed before the Quran was revealed, and we should give that word back its full meaning. So what the prophets or what the imams do is they instruct people with a command of God, and they institute adherence, which means they establish a system of compliance. Now, a system of compliance is nothing else but a government or an organization or a community with rules and regulations or governance in general, and to promote moral refinement. Now, here again, the word ita is zakat, robbed of its meaning by making it some random 2.5% amount. My brothers and sisters, please let us come back to the meaning of the Quran. Zakat is mentioned in the Quran many times, and most of those times you cannot apply to 2.5%. You have to, the word only makes sense when you see the word as a process of cleansing, of purifying, of refining society morally and socially. And so the leaders are those who institute systems of governance and who then officially promote moral refinement within society. And finally, the most important quality here of leadership is وَكَانُوا لَنَا عَابِدِينَ, and they are dedicated and devoted to us and us only. So the leaders that the Quran speak about are those men and women who establish systems of governance, who institute righteousness within the fabric of society, within the structures of society, who promote as an official act of promoting moral and social refinement and cleanliness. So in other words, banishing immorality, banishing corruption, banishing uh, shame and evil. That is what the leader is. And finally, and they constantly serve us and us alone. Those are the qualities of leadership which the Quran speaks about. Not a priest who comes and keeps you an hour, gives you an hour of preaching on a Friday, and then does name giving and does grave services, burial services, and does marital services, and tries to be a policeman in terms of your beliefs and your aqidah. That is all nonsense, my brothers and sisters. The real idea of Islam, which is a choice, which is not a religion, it is a divine choice, that to be in compliance with nature, that is Islam. Now, if you can't understand it, if it is way too far for you to make this connection, then you have to go and think about this, you have to go and dream about this, you have to read the Quran over and over, and what you will come to is no other conclusion but that Islam is not a religion. Islam is a divinely sanctioned choice to be in compliance with nature. Leadership is the relevant concept to the concept of, to that idea of Islam, and that form of leadership is leadership that is there to guide, to establish infrastructure, to establish organizations, to establish governance, and to promote moral refinement in society, and to be devoted only to Allah. In other words, the leader is somebody who is a spiritual guide, a political activist, a military leader, a social activist, a liberator of mankind, of humanity in general. That is what we call a leader. Do we have leaders today? Yes, we do. If you look carefully, you will see there are many leaders operating, but these are the leaders that are unrecognized by the priests, because what you are looking for are priests, and there's no such a thing as priests in Islam. So stop looking at priests, stop sanctifying them, stop giving them legitimacy. They have no legitimacy. There are amongst those priests or amongst those ulama who are indeed leaders. Alhamdulillah, there are some of those who are leaders, but you need to identify the very, very few of them. But you need to identify those people who are establishing governance, who are promoting moral refinement, who are leading people towards Allah, and who are bravely standing up against evil, and who fear none but Allah. Those are the leaders that we are interested in.